Welcome back to Video Talk. Today we have an amazing guest, David Schooley, and the discovery of SanBrunoMountain. But before to start with David Schooley, that is very well renowned in the Bay Area, and not only in the Bay Area, but in all the United States by environmentalist people like he is, I want to read you a passage of this wonderful book. It has an introduction to SanBrunoMountain wildflowers. Leaving the stream, we started across the plains in an easterly direction. We had been told at El Rancho de San Luis that we would in this way arrive at the Rio de San Joaquin, where there was a ford. By this time, we could see that had caused the mass of color so noticeable from the mountain the day before. The entire plain, as far as we could see, was covered with wild flowers. Almost all of the flowers were new to us. Along the creek were many blue lupins, some of them growing on bushes 6 and 8 feet high. The low foothills were covered with 2 pretty lily-like flowers, one tall and straight-stemmed with a cluster of lavender, bell-shaped flowers at the top, and the other purple, ball-shaped blossom on a similar stem. As we passed below the hills, the whole plain was covered with great patches of rose, yellow, scarlet, orange, and blue. The colors did not seem to mix to any great extent. Each kind of flower liked a certain kind of soil best, and some of the patches of one color were a mile or more across. I think this is a beautiful description of wildflowers in California. And Schooley, I know you discovered SanBrunoMountain and the beauty of that mountain. Tell me and tell everybody how it happened.
One day in 1969, I had never seen San Mateo County. And I heard that the Greyhound bus went along the old Bay Shore. And I said, well, free day, let's go see what happens.
And at that time, you lived in San Francisco on Haight-Ashbury, right?
Yeah, that's where I lived at the time. So I got on the Greyhound bus, heading down south where I saw the Cow Palace, I saw the sort of negatives around the edge of San Francisco, the hidden portions. And then coming around the ridge right there, suddenly the whole valley opened out with oak forests, a wilderness right in the middle of Bayfill, disasters in every direction. I got out of the bus and went into the small town of Brisbane and wandered over toward what is now Buckeye Canyon. And I couldn't believe it. I went up the canyon, and it was all native flowers in bloom, the buckeyes in bloom, just overwhelming native wilderness right there, and no trail, nobody.
About these flowers because of your studies. What did you study?
Yeah, I went to the University of Berkeley, and the most important things for me was native habitat and native things. So I did know native plants and the wilderness right there, but you know, I had grown up all over the place around Berkeley and San Francisco and Marin and elsewhere.
And Morocco, because he traveled a lot.
And South America and Mexico, et cetera. But the miracle was incredible native wilderness right there after I'd seen this incredible wreckage in all directions.
You
So,
were looking for a quiet place to live also, and you discovered Brisbane. How was the situation in Brisbane at that time?
well, Brisbane by then, it was only 40 years at the most at that time. It was a small town. That small town happened at the earthquake of 1906. So it was the first camping spot right there. And then 1910 or so, there was a French family that had a hotel. And I got to know them over the years as they went by. And that small town had another feeling, because just south of San Francisco, this was like the wreckage. This is where 1906 also started with San Francisco's garbage began. After the earthquake, they just decided to take all the incredible
Garbage and debris?
all the disasters of the earthquake were dumped in the bay fill. And then it was a great idea, hey, there's a place for San Francisco's garbage to fill the bay. So they began dumping the garbage at the base of SanBrunoMountain. A miracle right there. That made a different move for things like a small town of Brisbane. It became oaky, poor people, because the stench was right around the edge of the mountain.
It's true, but it's also a way, we can say, that the garbage of San Francisco saved SanBrunoMountain, because nobody wanted to go there, not even developers.
That's exactly what I mean, right there also was Hunters Point, from black people, poor people over there. And that's where Hunters Point, where the military powers were, and chemicals and nuclear disasters and everything, right next to SanBrunoMountain. And all that negatives kept a secret. And that secret next to the base of the mountain.
How many people live there, and why all the protests started to protect SanBrunoMountain?
In the small town of Brisbane, for example, people had their trails, they had the secrets up there, the beautiful flowers, the wilderness, the oaks. They cared about that kind of thing. In fact, when I first came into Brisbane, I noticed at the entrance into town, poison oak growing right next to the entrance into Brisbane. And I think people planted it there so that people would think, oh, who wants to go into this oaky town? So this feeling about the mountain was a secret, this incredible survival right there. So when the first moves began, Crocker was the owner of SanBrunoMountain for all those years, and obviously the negatives all around had done no interest or no care for the SanBrunoMountain. All they did was put the first radios on the top of the mountain and stuff like that, but no great thing until the big fight for Berkeley to save the bay stopped the bay fill garbage everywhere, and the city of Brisbane fought very hard to stop it becoming part of getting all the money from the city of San Francisco for garbage.
That was
so that stopped the stinking of the...
That was 1968, 69?
Yeah, that's about it.
But there was a protest also for an amazing project to develop the peninsula. And we already talked about it with Doug Alshouse. The idea was to chop off the mountain, right? And that's is very unreasonable for an environmentalist like you.
The big move, well, that was just before when I went there, that they were going to shave off the whole part of South San Francisco and Brisbane to fill the bay, because all that long space at the base of the mountain is San Francisco's garbage, a big flat area, and they were going to fill that even further. So the whole area was going to shave off this mountain. That was stopped. It was one of the first kind of environmental moves that were moving in San Mateo County and parts of the Bay Area. So that stopped it, and that was great. But other moves were pushing. The owners were getting very interested because the stench was gone. And the ideas to build were rising in every point of view. And it was the people of Brisbane who began to say, wait a minute, this is our secret, our hiding place. Daly City, Colma, Daly City and South City were quite aware of this secret mountain. Here are bee plants. Bee plants is the home of the checker spot butterfly. Right here along the path, waiting for you to come and see it at the right time.
Yes, the secret mountain, it was secret also to the Ohlone, right?
Yeah, that was, little was known about that. I think it was in 1900 when the guy from Berkeley, who did a careful study of the big shell mound in South City. The other ones, for example, when the day I got out of the bus and went up Buckeye Canyon, I found a shell mound. And I went and checked at SF State and elsewhere. It wasn't marked. And I actually I had to call up and tell people, and they came and marked another shell mound from my point of view of that place. So there are critical village sites around the mountain.
What made you realize that SanBrunoMountain needed an organization to save it? How did you start SanBrunoMountain Watch?
Okay, well, I think it was after I rented a place in Brisbane. I met people, and then I began to hear stories that they're planning to build on the mountain. And, you know, people all nervous and scared that they're going to build all over Brisbane and South City. And I was asked to go to a little meeting up in the Brisbane Acres. And a couple people, 3 or 4 of us, went up there with a jug of wine and went looking at some of the information that were being planned by Crocker, or Visitation Associates, the company that's planning to make major moves on the mountain. And we were just horrified by all the moves and secrets that were being pushed. And we started going to meetings in Brisbane and Daly City and South City. And the idea went out, do people realize what's about to happen to the secret mountain? And we began, we made a leaflet That was the first effort. And we went around door to door in Brisbane and South City to tell people, hey, they're going to be building our mountain. And then I went to going down in South City, and I saw a sign, "Save the mountain." And I said, hey, somebody else is after it. And I ran to the door, and I met the first set of meetings that happened in South City.
So you went to several and 100 meetings to fight to save SanBrunoMountain. And every time there were more people, more followers.
Definitely.
People love you. You cannot say it's not true. People love David Scully for what he did, right?
Well, it was other people. There were other people definitely involved. In fact, a set of other things had happened. Elizabeth McClintock at the Academy of Science in San Francisco had done her first booklet of the flora of SanBrunoMountain, because the people in Daly City had made the first freeway, Guadalupe Parkway, over the mountain. And that was before any great effort then. Nobody was going to build there except Daly City, and the owners of the mountain had the vision of putting high-rises on SanBrunoMountain. So they made the freeway to go over that. And that was the first little move that people saw the effort was being pushed on both sides. And Elizabeth made this incredible first flora book on SanBrunoMountain. And that opened the door for a lot of other people.
So the Quarry Road, Brisbane wanted to be closed because of the traffic of the big trucks. But the quarry is also important to SanBrunoMountain, because thanks to the owner of the quarry, what happened? He was a nice guy, you told me once.
Mr. Bottoms. That's quite a while ahead. You know, that's on to the 70s. And there was also at that point, there was a big fight between the council members in Brisbane and the quarry. And the quarry was, you know, chopping up big parts of the mountain, taking tons of rock on trucks across the town. And in a way, the town was proud of the quarry and all that kind of stuff. But the council members and others were starting to fight him because he was planning to make one big move. He bulldozed a certain area, one of the canyons, to make a lake. And the city went against him. And so that he gave up on his efforts for that lake and another portion.
And who acquired Buckeye Canyon and Owl Canyon?
He said he was a friend. He and I were friends, although I disagreed with the quarry. But he was honest, a good, honest man, more than the politics of Brisbane. But he actually said, if you could get the money, I'll sell it to you. So desperately, we went out door to door through San Francisco and South City and elsewhere. We got money. Then we got Trust for Public Land to join and to purchase Buckeye and Owl Canyon, the base. And also, when this was done, this was after there was some move for a park on the mountain and everything, but we decided that to add those sections to the state rather than the county of San Mateo, just to have a little bit of a fight between the county and the state of California about owners and powers of park effort.
When you go onto the mountain, because you like the solitary life, I know you like to meditate, stay in nature, and so on. I know that you wrote a book of poems, wonderful poems. So how do you feel when you're surrounded with nature?
Definitely to handle political powers and the games and all that stuff on San Bruno Mountain. To be able to survive with that was to have something stronger than any kind of power or vision or anything. And the incredible survival of something that has not changed for thousands of years, and all its wildlife and butterflies and raccoons and cougars and wildlife, and its stillness and its quietness in the midst of the Bay Area has kept me to survive through all the painful things that fought over this sort of thing. I mean, I can go up on the mountain and weep and cry against what's going on, but that'll keep something alive. And I suppose that's a question for my whole efforts always, in all exploring around through Europe or South America or New Guinea or wherever. Always is to go something wild and quiet.
So you need nature to feel yourself, and nature whisper you the words of your poems. Can you say that? Is it possible that you have this beautiful, talkative relationship with nature?
That's what you said. That's what I've said for sure. The feeling is that once I'm on the mountain or into the wilderness, that stillness and livingness of a place enters me and answers for any other questions. And I do think most of us spend far too much time in our minds and thoughts and stuff like that. So that quietness and that entering into the earth itself is critical to me, and I think all of us need it. I wouldn't have made it this far.
And through nature also you speak about yourself, because I read your poems and sometimes I see your soul through it, through your poems, actually through them. I can read you one poem, one of your poems. I hope my pronunciation will not horrify you. But
it's better when with another language.
Sunrise. Such a delicate creature of wings and gills and veils, though so very large, his listening and careful touch fills the morning bird songs through the quiet air's first glimmer over dark hills' edges. His skins are thin as lichen or plankton, as the ever-dead moon's coming, going glow. All colors join through a timeless, hurtling rainbow of gentle mountains, as the eye of the sun does ever look within your own.
Good.
There are several others, and I might read them later.
Okay.
And I know you also paint. So really nature gave you an extra life possibilities, because you became also an artist.
Well, definitely playing around with painting and drawing and poems, and in my early days in Berkeley and elsewhere, we're searching for something to find something alive, because to me, I felt that the world was hopeless with nuclear. I grew up with nuclear weapons and bombs. When I was a kid, every other day they put me underneath the table, because in case maybe the bomb was going to come and I'd survive. So I thought the world was hopeless. There was no hope at all. And I would go over the hills in Berkeley, Tilden Hills and elsewhere to survive. And, that hopelessness of the world began to change because of nature, because of the wilderness around it. And again, that was an incredible discovery in SanBrunoMountain, to find something far more than Berkeley Hills. The wilderness was just an unbelievable, untouched presence of hundreds, thousands of years by the wildlife of SanBrunoMountain.
I know that you met some member of the Ohlone tribe, and you learned also some songs. You remember one? Can you?
You mean to read it?
Yeah, can you say it, read it, or if you remember the words, sing it?
Kaistun haluyache kama siktatenine exenakai sekakai exenakai nena hoirehaya. Which means jackrabbit, quail, dancing at the edge of the world.
It's beautiful because it seems their natural side, because Native Americans were very close to nature, it also joins your soul. And it makes it kind of a similar, beautiful souls together. The Native Americans that lived here and yours that has developed and opened up with SanBrunoMountain. So what do you suggest to young generation who wants to know more about nature? Do you have any suggestions or?
Well,
I don't want you to be a dad or a granddad, but you have a lot of experience and you might tell them something that they don't know yet.
Well, so it's over 50 years since I first discovered SanBrunoMountain, and it discovered me and opened up all sorts of things for me, but also at the battles to begin to save the mountain and all the people involved with that, one of the most critical parts of that was taking groups up into that unbelievable survival of wilderness right there. And to me, those were the most important things of all the meetings, all the gatherings, all the battles were simple, quiet walks on the mountain at any time of the year, from in bloom to dry and quiet.
I quickly browse this wonderful book, and I'll read a couple of David Scully's poems. Stumble light, dawn at hand. I've gathered too much hunger and equal fear of love. Darting eyes of sparrows on a dead bush. Honeyed burning flowers in my head, wrapped alive in darkness will. Sudden pivot, unexpected grip relaxed. Reason leaching out, the steadfast claws slip through the wakeful blind. Visible now, sprouted opposites thread through nothing, and now, just watching them, the dance is happy and careful through the shadows.
So those are that entering and keeping with nature around me is the thing that's kept me going. And life is not so easy for the modern age, and all of us have our own sufferings and troubles, and I think that is something so critical for all of us, all the young people, old people, middle people, whatever, who live in the big cities and the world around us, and with our TVs and computers now, we're off. We're a step away from where the world is, and it's so much more important to settle back right there.
Excellent. And we end with one more poem.
Scrub's Song. Huckleberry's calendar of silence up the ridge, and the penetrating fire. A hawk's cry conspire to wake all distance over Stonecrop's fields with no path. Delicate abandon, your fierce wind voice comes into me. And after this, I must say,
See you next time. Thank you. Ciao.
Bye.